Hi everyone, this is Rae. I just wanted to give you all a sense of what's about to come with the next few episodes of Elevator Pitch. The episode you're about to listen to is the first part of 4. Every episode will be releasing consecutively every week at Fridays at 6 o'clock. So after this episode, please make sure to tune in next week for the next installment of The Usual Suspects. Please try to keep spoilers on the internet to a minimum. It is a mystery, so spoilers hold particular weight in this sort of genre. So, please make sure that when you talk about it, if you talk about it, and we hope you talk about it, you keep relative spoilers to a minimum for the next few weeks. Also, we are very happy to announce that following the third part of The Usual Suspects, we are going to be releasing the link to our official Discord server. So we really hope you join us there. It will be in the show description, and we will be sharing it on social media. We are sharing the link to our Discord in preparation for a listen party that we're doing for the final installment of The Usual Suspects that is going to be released on the last Friday of August. So we really hope you join us for those. We're really excited for them. And without further ado, please enjoy The Usual Suspects. Elevator Pitch presents The Usual Suspects, Part 1, written by Anne C.
It was raining again. Late October morning like this one, it's always raining. Droplets like daggers pelt you from overhead like they got a million reasons just to waste their lives to spit on you. 1,000 bitter suicides just rolling away off the brims of 1,000 uncaring heads. In a city like this, the rain sticks in the air like the stink of an expensive cigar. It curdles in your nose and throat and has the nerve to laugh about it, just to let you know that it's gonna sit there all day and watch you sputter. Rain or not, it was home and I had to deal with it. I didn't have time to worry about the weather. Somewhere in the city, someone was dead. It was my job to find out why. The name's Nathan Archer. I'm a private eye. When the telephone call wept its way past the receiver, I was in my office, looking out a mist-stained window and trying to solve the mystery of whether the sky was going to quit taunting me already and just crack open. My clients didn't give me too much time to figure it out.
Oh, my sincerest apologies. Oh, my. Why, thank you, Mr. LeBlanc.
Who's on the phone?
Shh. Oh, that? He's nobody. I think I left a window open. What was that you were saying about my voice?
Is it a client?
Very forward of you. If I didn't know any better, I'd think you were buttering me up.
Dana!
And where might you take me to dinner, Mr. LeBlanc? My, that is a choice. Not a bad one, of course.
No, Dana, I'm paying you a hell of a lot too much.
Shut up. I'm open Friday if you are. 7 o'clock? A rain check it is then. I'll send you through to Detective Archer. Hold just one moment.
You want to tell me what...
Do you want my read of him before or after you pick up that phone?
Alright, so I guess we are talking business. Tell me now, I hate surprises.
Filthy rich socialite. He made a show of mentioning his last name, but I never heard of it, so I'd guess he's either new money, new in town, or both. Loves to hate the name too, since he doesn't seem to like his dad too much. He offered to take me to a 4-star restaurant, but backed down the second I gave him the time and date, so I bet he's a little less financially secure than he wants to project.
Could just be a flake, but I'll take your word for it. Where'd you get the hating his dad part?
That's why he called. Found his father dead in his study this morning.
I know Shock's a hell of a mistress, but...
Arranging a date on a call about a corpse he just found is abnormal. Even then, he's had his time to process it. He kept apologizing that he'll look terrible since he just got out of police questioning.
What the hell kind of guy tries to schmooze the secretary on a call about a corpse?
One you need to worry about, in my opinion.
when this job finally kills me, Dana, I think you ought to cover it up and keep doing it for me. Get better at it anyway.
Just try not to die before I learn how to run a detective agency.
Don't worry about it. I never learned how to run one either. Hello? This is Nathan Archer, Archer Detective Agencies.
Thank heavens, I was terrified you'd drop my case. Perhaps that's merely my overactive imagination, but after the morning I've had, you'd think I could hardly blame you.
Hey, slow down. I'm trying to get this on paper.
Apologies, Detective. I called as soon as I gathered myself. I'm at a payphone now. I haven't even made it home yet.
Just take a breath for me, Mr. LeBlanc.
Mr. LeBlanc? No need for such formality, Nathan. Call me Vincent.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm here to talk business.
Quite unfortunate, though if it's business you want, it's business I'll give you. I must warn you, though, death and tragedy make me incredibly peckish. Might we have this conversation over dinner sometime?
What's your angle here?
No angle, Detective. I'm merely trying to find a private eye who can meet my needs, unless you would prefer I take my business elsewhere.
Fine. Just stick to business for now.
Of course. Business it is, then. I'm leaving for your office in a matter of minutes. I just thought I'd call ahead to forewarn you of my presence.
I'll mark you down for an appointment. Any other reason you're calling?
To preemptively apologize, Detective. I'm not sure if your secretary informed you of my predicament.
She did?
Good. I made the error of calling my father's body in myself instead of contacting his staff. I've just gotten out of police questioning.
And how'd you find the boys in blue?
Despicable.
Alright, so that wasn't a lie.
They recommended you by name, you know.
Excuse me?
Yes, they had a few choice things to say about you, but they did recommend you on principle of being nearby.
Any choice things I might want to hear?
Oh, just that you're a rat bastard son of a bitch. Now, I believe that's a bit harsh.
Sounds like you got the right guy.
Why do you ask?
Police and I go way back, Mr. LeBlanc. If I had it my way, we wouldn't have ever brushed elbows.
I assume it didn't end well.
Well, I'll be damned. Looks like you'd make a hell of a detective yourself.
I'll take the compliment. I'm terribly sorry to cut this call of ours short, but there are larger things to be tended to. I'll be darkening your door in under half an hour. I'm terribly disheveled, I must say.
Don't worry about it.
I think I may just stop at home first.
Isn't it a crime scene?
Did you assume I lived with my father, Detective Archer?
How old are you again?
Well, it's not polite to ask. And to think you were doing so well. I might just have to rescind that offer for dinner.
Maybe it wouldn't matter if you're half as funny looking as you say.
Detective?
I'm pulling your leg. I promise that however bad you look, I've seen worse. Probably in the mirror.
Oh, my dear detective, you mustn't be so harsh on yourself. A voice that lovely couldn't belong to just anyone.
Oh. Regardless, you got an appointment. I'll hang up so you can get here.
Anything for you, Mr. Archer. What a shame that we must depart, if only for a short while. I'll see you soon, Detective.
Right. See you soon. Dana! What the hell was that?
What? Did he ask you to dinner too?
Nothing. He's just a lot different than I expected, that's all.
You're not telling me.
Now, this didn't have anything to do with anything. I was just surprised. That's it.
Of course.
Did he strike you as weird in any way?
He struck me as suspicious, if that's what you're asking.
No, I never mind.
Don't break a cog in your head thinking it over when you can just share it with me.
Not breaking anything. It looked like my brain was going to be walking in circles around a big something for the foreseeable future. At least that something had a name. Vincent LeBlanc. He fit the role of the ambitious murdering socialite like I didn't cast for him, but I wasn't ready to shut the case that quick. There was something about him that held me back from saying anything for certain, even if I kept his name and details in my pocket journal. Maybe it was that voice. Soft and sweet as a back alley kiss. Maybe he was just playing me for a fool. Either way, there was a little part of me that didn't care so much. When that got a little too hard to think about, I stamped out my cigarette and dragged my head to the police. By the time they fired me, they were just looking for a reason. I just kicked over the last domino before they got the chance. If they wanted me on this case and they wanted Vincent LeBlanc in my office, maybe I wasn't the only one getting played. A knock at the door saved me from having to spare too many thoughts for the CPD. You got an appointment?
Detective, do I really prove that forgettable?
Let yourself in.
Vincent LeBlanc didn't let himself in so much as he made an entrance. The door pulled aside like the curtain before a cabaret show, and even though that long dark shadow filled the doorway, the first things I saw were his teeth. Sharp, white, and bared in a hungry grin. LeBlanc kept his shirt buttoned a little too low, every inch of skin drawing your eye lower and lower until you hit a button and yanked your head back onto your shoulders. The ghost of a love bite still haunted his collarbone, and I didn't doubt whoever left it put it there just to torment me. On anybody else, his long legs and his too heavy lean on the doorway and the shadow on his chest would have seemed rude. But somehow, Vincent LeBlanc managed to wear debauchery like a millionaire murderer wears a fur coat. He was a mistake ready to be made. I wish I'd minded, but something in those dark, sweet eyes of his lit me like a match, and I didn't think I could put this fire out so easily. Thought you should have said you looked bad.
I've hardly had time to fix my hair, Detective.
You and I must have different definitions of bad, then. Take a seat in my office and close the door behind you.
Bossy, are we?
Yeah, just sit down.
I meant no offense, Detective. I assumed you'd take the matter as a compliment.
Oh, really? Not big on manners, huh?
Depends on the man, Detective Archer.
Call me Nathan. Nate if you're out of time.
Of course, Nathan. To return to my former point, I don't have any particular distaste for manners. It's just that some men wear brutishness well, if you catch my meaning.
What kind of men?
The kind I wouldn't mind discussing this case over dinner with.
Hey, I can't tell if you're in my office for a detective or a free-for-let mignon.
Can't I be a culinary aficionado and in terrible need of help?
What kind of guy do you take me for, LeBlanc?
I'm not proposing anything untoward, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, you'd better not be.
I merely wish to be as hands-on with this case as possible. If that means getting to know the man bringing my father's killer to justice, so be it.
What do you mean by hands-on?
I'm the closest thing you have to a witness, Nathan. Face it, you need me.
I didn't know if he was leaning in closer or if it was just a bead of sweat lazing down my collar like a lover's lips, but suddenly my office felt way too small. Like it could barely fit me and him and the desk between us. It seemed like half my breathing room was taken up by that practiced smile of his alone. It flashed like the muzzle of a gun, snarling at my common sense and putting a hole between its eyes. Maybe I'd be able to believe you a little better if you just told me about the scene already.
Fine. You want me to give another statement? I've been handing them out like alms since 4:30 this morning.
It's just procedure, LeBlanc. You mind if I write this down?
I suppose that would be all right. I must warn you, there may be certain volatile details that make their appearances throughout this case. How much extra would I need to pay you to keep them to yourself?
Not at all. This isn't my first case for a socialite.
Thank heavens.
So long as you don't have a big fat secret that's gonna take off another 6 of my fingernails, I wouldn't worry too much.
Of course. And may I ask that if anything of the like should come up, you won't leave any kind of paper trail?
Of course not. Here at Archer Detective Agencies, it's just me, my golf pencil, and my pocket journal against the rest of the world. Or at least wherever my clients point me.
And one last thing. Could I ask that you see to it personally?
The business name's a misnomer, LeBlanc. Hate to break it to you, but I'm your only option. What, you think you need an expert on the case?
I served a very particular job in the war, Detective. There are certain people who would wish me ill for that specifically. I'm sure you understand.
Wouldn't be the first I've seen. Look, if we're gonna get to that crime scene before the last of the cops clear out, I'm gonna need your story and exactly what you're hiring me for.
At approximately 3:45 this morning, I was awoken by a phone call from my father, one James LeBlanc. He said he heard a strange sound come from his study and was going to investigate. I warned him against such an action, as he's an older gentleman and his health has been failing for some time, but he wouldn't listen to me, so I did what I could to piece myself together and drove over to his home.
No chauffeur? Thought she was supposed to be dripping in diamonds, LeBlanc.
I'm not too rich to forget how to drive, Nathan. Besides, I've had some level of financial independence from him for some time now. If not for his illness, I would have completely cut ties with him several years ago.
Go on.
I had been trying to gather funds to leave the city entirely before his diagnosis. Terminal cancer, that is. I've been serving as his caretaker since. That didn't necessarily heal our relationship. I was a live-in support for some time, but I moved back into my apartment after we had a falling out. I still visited daily to take care of his needs, of course, but, well, I'm sure you can understand.
A breather. A place to call home that doesn't have any of him on it.
Exactly.
And how did he react when you moved out?
Rather poorly, I'm afraid. Conflicting personalities don't cease conflicting under unkind circumstances.
Sorry to hear about that.
No need. His suffering has ended now.
If I might ask, why were you the primary caretaker? I'm gonna guess he could afford a professional if he had a mansion.
My family has always preferred to keep such medical needs close secrets between ourselves and the family physician. Appearance of weakness is bad for business. We've had the same personal doctor since I was a child, not long after my mother passed. I do suspect my father may have been attempting to exert some control since I had to deplete some of my admittedly meager savings to his care, but I don't doubt spite may be guiding my logic.
So what happened when you got to the crime scene?
The window was shattered, so I used the key he gave me to enter, and once I arrived in the study, I saw...
The stiff?
He was dead, on the floor, with no killer to be found, nothing taken, and the blood cleared away. Father always kept a fully loaded gun on the wall as decoration, or as a threat to any paramours I might invite over. That gun was on the floor next to him.
Interesting. Anything else?
There was a bag on the ground. It was rather large, and I had never seen it before, so I assumed it must have been the killer's. Oddly enough, it didn't seem anything was actually taken from the mansion, just placed within the bag. I didn't have much time to go through it, however. It dawned on me that the killer might not have had the time to take anything when I arrived, and might still be nearby.
And then you called the cops.
Precisely. They then proceeded to question me for hours and told me that if I wasn't going to lie and give them the story they wanted to hear, I might as well take my defense to you.
What do you mean by defense?
They made quite the stunt of wanting me to be guilty. Of course, they gained nothing incriminating from me, but that doesn't change their intent.
I'd believe it if I could see what the hell made you so special.
It's an easy story, isn't it? Young, disillusioned socialite with a strained relationship with his father kills him for his money. Isn't that the conclusion you want too?
I hated to admit it, but LeBlanc was right. It sounded easy, and worst of all, it sounded correct. I trusted Vincent LeBlanc about as far as I could throw him, and the old war scar on my shoulder still ached whenever it got cold out. Chicago was cold as hell. On the other hand, he didn't seem like the cops sent him to give me trouble. If anything, he probably hated them as much as I did. Maybe it was the common enemy, or maybe it was the way his gaze got sick of eye contact and started trailing down my lips and neck instead. But I had to admit I was a little too ready to take his case. So you're hiring me to prove you didn't kill him.
Exactly. If the police won't bring my father's true killer to justice, you might as well.
I'm gonna need a little more if the cops want you fried that bad. What were you doing before you got the call from your dad?
I was in bed.
Who beat the hell out of your neck then, the Chicago PD?
An incident from several nights prior, I'm afraid. I was in bed then, too.
All right, I don't think I need to hear any more than...
With a man.
Oh.
Feel free to cast me from your office if you wish.
Do you do that often?
Don't get your hopes up just yet, Detective.
Do the cops know?
I'm afraid so. Whether or not my father and I have tried to stay on the quieter side of wealth in this city, there seems to be a correlation between the width of your wallet and the spread of your rumors. I must ask, though, what is your intent with me? Of course, it would be easiest to turn the habitual criminal in.
I'm not turning you in.
I thought not, though I had my doubts.
treated as a favor. One habitual criminal to another.
You don't mean to say that you're...
Living life with one hand tied behind my back.
Why, detective?
That doesn't mean you're off paying me, though. $25 a day, plus expenses.
I'd give you everything I had if it meant my freedom.
Dana, we're heading out.
We?
I'm taking him with me as a witness.
Oh, really?
And I'm not letting you out of my sight.
Penning the next great American novel, detective?
Case notes.
Sound quite riveting, though I must advise that you wait until I'm no longer driving this vehicle to write them down.
But maybe I could actually get my goddamn case notes in if you drove like a regular human being.
Apologies, detective, but I assumed you wanted to get to the crime scene quickly.
Jesus Christ, I didn't mean you should be a public menace.
Is that any better for you?
Yeah. Finally decided to spare me a heart attack.
Unfortunately not.
What? Ah!
We were passing a police car, detective. Any menace to public safety worth his salt can see a speed trap from a mile away.
Ugh.
Hold on for me, Nathan. Just breathe deeply and look ahead. This car is rather new, and I'd hate for you to contaminate it before we get to the crime scene.
Car, huh?
Must everything I do be suspicious?
You're the leading suspect in a murder case, LeBlanc. Hate to break it to you, but that means I can't get too comfortable with anything.
Fine. It's a new car because I stole it from an old widowed woman whose children are all dead and whose husband left her for a 20-year-old. I laughed all the while and wished I could have gotten it all on tape. I would have run her over too, but I didn't think entrails matched the new chrome.
That better be a joke, Vincent.
I'm beginning to prefer LeBlanc, if you wouldn't mind. The only man who ever called me Vincent. Well, I suppose you're about to meet him.
Cop?
Cadaver.
Oy vey. Sorry.
Nothing to apologize for, my dear detective. You didn't know. Now...
I can get my own car.
Nonsense. It's only fair I be hospitable when welcoming you to my family home.
The jaundiced marble columns in front of the LeBlanc mansion snarled down the walkway like sharpened teeth, making the house behind him look corpse white next to their sickly ivory. Between that and the shattered hole in one of the eye-like windows, the building looked like a caricature of Wolfe, ready to snarl to life and sink its big stone fangs into the neck of anyone who stepped through the gaping mouth of a doorway. LeBlanc looked like he knew it, too. Most of the socialites I knew either bathed in or brushed off their wealth, but he seemed to curl in on himself at the sight of it. His $1 million smile faltered every time it tried to make an appearance, and the grotesque terror dressed up as grief threatened to contort his face at every turn. I'd usually ask about the relationship with the deceased right about now, but after watching Vincent LeBlanc's face go gray just walking through the front door, I didn't think I needed to. Don't take this the wrong way, but this is a hell of a place for the amount of staff you got.
Everything you're seeing is the work of private contractors. My father preferred to keep his illness as quiet as possible, so he only ever employed a private physician and a butler.
Are they still working for you?
My father fired the private physician not long after his prognosis. It seems a certain amount of pettiness is genetic.
And what about the butler?
He had looser lips than my father liked. He shared a few too many business secrets.
Detective Aicha, good to see you back at work.
Malarkey.
How's forced retirement treating you?
If you like your nose the way it looks, I'd shut up right
Pleasant
about
as
now.
ever, I see. Who's the client?
That's confidential.
Oh, come on, we've already met.
Have you?
Unfortunately so. It's a pleasure to be making your acquaintance at a kinder hour, officer. Detective Archer was just showing me to the crime scene, if you don't mind our continuing through this doorway.
And why should I let a suspect through?
He owns the house, Malarkey. He can go wherever the hell he wants.
Doesn't it strike you as suspicious?
You know, keep an eye on him.
Good luck finding much. Coroner already took the cadaver.
Anything I ought to know about?
Organ damage, 4 bullets in his chest cavity, no others found. All hit the exact spots you need to hit to kill somebody quick.
A good shot with either medical knowledge or a rabbit's foot. I'll keep it in mind. Thanks, Malarkey.
Don't mention it. I mean it, too. If anybody finds out I helped you, I'm done for.
Yeah, I'd rather keep your name out of my mouth anyway.
I'm getting out of here before anybody catches wind we were in the same room.
I didn't know much about James LeBlanc, but from the looks of his study and the way the sight of it made his son shiver, I decided I didn't want to know anything I didn't have to. It had a chessboard marble floor, the kind that makes your every step feel like a wrong move. The leather-bound medical texts and half-dozen jarred specimens staring down at me from the bookshelves with their gray, shriveled eye sockets didn't help much either. The rest of the room wasn't much better to look at. The chalk outline of James LeBlanc cut through the floor by his desk. I'd seen bomb craters neater than that hunk of oak. Between the mess of papers and the broken glass from the case that used to hold the murder weapon, you could barely tell the desk had ever been usable. Over all of it, a painted portrait of someone in a high-collared gown stared down at us with cold, sharp eyes and a tight grimace, as if the neck of the dress was a chokehold. LeBlanc stared right back with the kind of expression that would make you think he was looking down the barrel of a gun. Hey, LeBlanc, who's there?
Oh, apologies. I was just seeing the last of the officers out. I came to gather my effects.
Who the hell are you?
Put the gun away, and perhaps we'll talk.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Very well, then. I'm a member of Mr. James LeBlanc's contracted staff. I was not aware there had been a murder until I turned up to work.
Why the hell are you still here?
If you don't mind, and I'm all but positive that you don't, I'll be on my way.
Hey, wait a minute!
I am no part of your investigation, detective. Any one of the officers can tell you I arrived after they did.
Answer me straight, damn it.
Can't make him do anything, detective.
You're just gonna let it...
Nathan.
It's been nice seeing you, Vincent. I do hope we meet again soon.
Hey! Get back here! What were you doing? God damn it. Whoa, hey.
I need to sit down.
Hey, it's alright. Let's get you to... Why is there a couch behind your dad's desk? Damn it doesn't matter. Just sit down.
If I had to guess, he's taken to sleeping here. Perhaps the stairs to the bedroom were too much.
Shouldn't you know that?
There are many things I would rather do than speak with my father, Nathan. Sickness or health does not change that matter.
Alright. Who was the creep?
Exactly who he said he was. Frank Wolfe, if you want a name. I don't think he's been rehired, but he was formerly employed here for some time.
What happened?
He was the butler.
You think you killed your dad?
It's a possibility. Revenge is never off the table.
He can't have left yet. I can get him back for questioning.
It's too late to go after him now. I don't see why you shouldn't just case the scene and get us the hell out of here before any other old ghosts have a chance to haunt me.
You don't look so great.
Yes, Detective. Thank you for the reminder.
No, I mean, you just look like you should stay sitting down for a moment.
Of course.
And I know you don't want to talk about him much, but can I just ask one thing?
I was a fool to hire a detective and expect him not to interrogate me.
I just want to know if you're safe. That's all.
Thank you, but this is an issue I believe I can handle on my own. I hope never to see him again, and I need no assistance in that matter. It's not what I hired you for anyway.
If your dad fired him, then why the hell would he be after you?
He was my former lover, Detective. I would appreciate the questions ending there, if you don't mind.
Right, mind a question or two about the gun?
Not at all.
How old is this thing, anyway?
I don't have a year, but it's been passed down from my great-great-grandfather along with his name. My father was the first in years to break the tradition, though I've since reinstated it.
About old enough that it would take a hell of a gunman to shoot it straight.
Or perhaps someone incredibly lucky.
The rest of the scene painted a pretty clear picture. The intruder had entered through the unlocked door with a half-full bag of stolen goods, struggled with Mr. LeBlanc, shot him dead a few more times than necessary, claimed the blood, and fled without taking the bags with him. What tugged at me was the motive. The ordinary thief wouldn't have been able to shoot that gun so well, especially not that many times in the dark. If the killing had been impersonal, the thief probably would have gone with 2 shots instead of 4. The clean floor didn't quite fit either. Someone fleeing into the night quick enough to forget their bag of expensive knickknacks probably wouldn't take the time to mop up the mess they left first. Maybe Wolfe could have been mad enough to kill him, but whether or not he could shoot like that was still up in the air. When I looked up, I caught LeBlanc watching me work. Even if he was leaning a little too hard on one of the shelves, he was still standing, and the color in his face looked good enough to make me feel better. He'd been poring over the nearest book on the shelf, some stuffy-looking medical text about mastectomies, pretending to read while those dark, soft eyes trailed over me the way his long fingers trail over the bookmark. I should have been suspicious, but there was something almost nice about it. It wasn't patronizing and nosy. It just looked like he took some simple pleasure in watching me be good at something. I didn't know how to deal with that, so instead I focused on the book. Medical text, huh? Your dad some kind of doctor?
No. He just liked to stay well read on the various ailments that ran in my family. When I returned from Italy, he began amassing the library in response to a medical condition I'd developed and needed a series of surgeries for.
Which was?
None of your business, Detective. A deeply painful process, I assure you. My younger siblings suffered a similar ailment prior to the war.
LeBlanc ran one gloved hand along one of his ribs, his touch delicate as if he were examining a fresh wound instead of a memory of where a scalpel once sank its teeth into him. You wouldn't have been able to tell either way. From the face he made when he noticed I'd seen his book, you would have thought I'd sunk a dagger into his back. I'm gonna guess you mean the sibling in the portrait?
My family was sorely mistaken when we assumed the work of a nurse would be much safer than the work of a soldier.
Painting's your spitting image. It must be hard.
You have no idea. What do you make of that gun, Detective? You've been staring at it for long enough.
Well, LeBlanc, I think I've got a pretty definitive profile of the killer.
Do tell.
Well, they didn't like your father, judging from the number of bullet holes. We're probably looking at a good shooter, maybe a war vet. He's been shot too well by too old of a gun for it to be anybody else. And they had to know him to know how to clean up this floor, so they probably knew the way around the place.
Quite perceptive of you.
And whoever did it has a bullet lodged in him somewhere.
Beg pardon?
They didn't find any stray bullets, and your dad was shot 4 times. There were 5 bullets missing, and you said he always kept the gun full. That means the part came in here with that bag, your father saw them, and shot. There was a struggle, unless the desk normally looks like that. Then the perpetrator shot him 4 more times and fled without the bag. They'd be in handcuffs if they went to the hospital, so they're still probably out there somewhere, lying low.
What, Detective?
Yeah, I know, I'm a genius. Best you've ever seen.
Oh, hush. Have you found any other clues, Mr. Holmes?
Shut up.
I'm afraid you'll have to make me.
Yeah, maybe some other time, huh? We're already, they're nice with the CPD, so I'd hate to contaminate a crime scene.
Your funeral. Need a hand up? That floor must be hell on your knees.
Don't mind if I do. Just one more question before we get the hell out of here.
Thank heavens.
Was your dad in the mafia?
Oh. No. Why do you ask?
No other reason you would have had a piece of paper on top of his desk with the meeting time and date at a bar that's a known organized crime front?
Dear Lord, none that I can think of.
Then I think I'm going to be able to promise you that dinner after all.
Only if you're paying.
How long is this going to be?
I don't mean to take hours, if that's what you mean. I just intend to look slightly more put together when we inevitably get kidnapped by mobsters.
Just know you're liable for anything that gets mugged from my coat pockets. I'm guessing my secretary went over the paperwork with you.
Certainly. I don't mind paying for a notebook and some pocket lint.
Hey.
Don't mourn my absence for too long, Detective. I'll be gone for as long as it takes to get a glass of water and put something a little more fitting for getting drinks at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday.
I'll be out here by 2:30. I don't care if the bar's only a block away. I want to be early for my execution.
Don't sound so heartbroken, Nathan.
Ma always said that 15 minutes early was late.
And she was right to do so. I will warn you, I might take a bit more time than you're anticipating. The wretched elevator's been broken for months now, and the landlord seems to have no intention of fixing it anytime soon.
I don't care if you jump from the fire escape to get back down, just don't leave me waiting forever.
You could come up with me, you know.
Yeah, if you want a detective to prove you innocent, it's a bad idea to take him up into your apartment. It's an even worse idea if the police already want you.
Pity.
I gotta make a call anyway, and I'm pretty sure you'd rather have me do that on a payphone than while you change into whatever pants are easiest to get blood out of.
I beg your pardon?
The first rule of getting drinks at this kind of bar is that you have to expect every appetizer to come with a side of a knuckle sandwich, and most of the waiters like to serve them with brass.
Oh, of course. I'll keep that in mind. I'll be back soon, detective. Every time I part your company, you keep a piece of me with you, you brute.
Shut up. I'll be out here. It was hard not to watch him go. That was until the door closed behind him. Vincent LeBlanc might have been a sight for sore eyes, but his apartment building was more of an eyesore. For a man who wore his wealth and his billionaire smile and in every tailored piece of clothing that hung on him like a sighted lover, he had certainly made himself comfortable in the wrong part of town. On a city street like this, I kept my hand in the pocket of my trench coat with a firm grip around my wallet, even if it was a little too skinny for most pickpockets to bother with. With half the windows missing and the other half boarded up, I could only guess it was the kind of place you lived if you didn't care too much about what the roof over your head looked like. From the looks of it, James LeBlanc's will was probably the best thing that could have happened to his son in a couple years. Wealthy heirs don't move into places like that just for somewhere to blow their allowance. They move there to get the hell away. I didn't have an answer for a lot of the questions I had about Vincent LeBlanc. Thankfully, I knew someone who might have.
Archer Detective Agencies, how can we help you?
Dana, it's me.
Thought you'd never call back.
Is there something I need to worry about?
I was under the impression that you and Vincent LeBlanc would be a little too busy running around to every fancy restaurant on this side of town to have time for a call.
I always have time for a call.
Don't make it a habit.
Good to hear from you, too. I called because I got a question or two about this LeBlanc guy's whole case.
Thought you'd never ask.
His family's a can of worms I don't think I want to get into. If I had to guess, the first nice thing James LeBlanc ever did for his kid was die.
That's a tall order.
Vincent lives in a goddamn shack 12 blocks south of the office. You know the building that looks like it got hit by a bomb?
I knew his address looked familiar.
Looks like he's been trying to get away for a while, but it doesn't make sense for him to rob the place and kill James. The family's about as private as you can get, so there's no way the insurance money wasn't already going to him. He wouldn't need to steal anything either, especially with his dad already dying.
Any other suspects?
That's what gets me. LeBlanc said that there isn't any staff at the house, just hired contractors. The only two people his dad ever hired were a personal doctor and a butler. He fired the doctor for giving him a prognosis he didn't like.
What about the butler?
That's where it gets interesting. LeBlanc wouldn't tell me straight, but he said something about loose lips. He and the butler used to be close, but they had enough of a falling out to make him shake like a goddamn leaf when the guy showed up at the crime scene.
Slow down. So, if the butler wasn't an employee...
He broke in.
Want me to do a background check?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. His name is Frank Wolfe. That's with an E at the end, I think. If your intuition's telling you anything, I think you ought to tell me that, too.
LeBlanc's more likely to use a key to get in, not break a window. If you fired a butler under those kinds of circumstances, you'd probably change all the locks afterwards.
That would give him what he needed to clean the floor up.
What was his alibi for being at the scene?
Said he showed up to work and decided to help out with the cops if James wasn't going to be giving him anything to do.
I don't like the way this looks.
You're telling me.
So, if he did it, there's a decent chance he just found a place to hide, then showed up at an opportune time.
Still no motive, though. Revenge feels too easy, especially if he's been fired for a while.
It could be to frame LeBlanc if they hate each other that much.
I can't say anything for certain.
I'll keep an eye out for anything. Might take a day or so, but I'll have something for you to chew on by the time you get back to the office.
I wouldn't mind you chewing on it yourself, either. You got a good head on your shoulders.
I'm aware.
I'll get back to you after I chase down this lead.
Don't get killed.
Yeah, you have a good afternoon, too. I hated to admit it, but when LeBlanc pulled the door aside and smiled at me, something in my chest clicked into place. He looked good. I mean, he always looked good, but something about him being put together, with clean slacks and his bright eyes shining from behind his glasses, really got me. He waved at me before making his way over, but if I hadn't been looking so carefully, I would have missed the new ring on his right hand altogether.
Ready to go, Detective?
That's a hell of a rock.
Oh, this? A ring I stole during the war. Forgive the pretty thought, but I've always considered it a good luck charm.
Know where I can get one? I've been looking for a more decorative set of brass knuckles.
Never change, dear detective. Now, I'd hate to need that good luck charm. Why don't we get going before our friends at the bar can have any more time to prepare than they need?
So long as you're paying.
This episode was performed by the following people: Ethan S. as Detective Archer, Rae F. as Dana, Ellis G. as LeBlanc, Jeannette C. as Malarkey, and Ethan W. as Frank Wolfe. It was written by Ann C. and produced by Rae F. The soundtrack was written and performed by Carl J Ferrara and by Ann C. Special thanks to Ellis G. for the episode art. To view bonus content, please consider following our Twitter at ElevatorPitchP and our TikTok at ElevatorPitchP. If you are feeling generous and are able, please consider donating to our Ko-Fi at Elevator Pitch Podcast. Elevator Pitch is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike 4.0 International License. Thank you for listening.